This is Asclepiades, and I'm going to be reading some of my favorite passages from Proclus's Elements of Theology, mainly from the latter half of this work. The first half tends to deal a lot with the one, the nature of the one, what we can and cannot say about it, what it's like, what it's not like. Whereas the second half is more polytheist in nature. What are the gods like? What do they do? What is their nature? How do they relate to first principles? So, I'm just going to read some of my favorites. For example, Proposition 113. Every divine number is unical. For if a divine number has a percutaneous cause, v. the one, just as an intellectual number has intellect, and a physical number soul, and if multitude is everywhere analogous to its cause, it is evident that a divine number is unical, since the one is God. But this follows, since the one and the good are the same. For the good and God are the same. For that beyond which there is nothing, and which all things desire, is God. And likewise that from which all things proceed, and to which all things tend, is the good. If therefore there is a multitude of gods, the multitude is unical. But that there is a multitude of gods is evident, for every archical cause is the leader of an appropriate multitude, which is similar and cognate to its cause. Proposition 114. Every God is a self-perfect unity, and every self-perfect unity is a God. For if the number of unities is twofold, as has been demonstrated, and some are self-perfect, but others are illuminations from the self-perfect unities, and if a divine number is allied to and connatural with the one and the good, the gods are self-perfect unities, and vice versa. If there is a self-perfect unity, it is a God. For as unity is the most eminent degree allied to the one, and the self-perfect to the good, so likewise according to both of these, the self-perfect participates of the divine peculiarity, and is a God. But if a God was a unity, yet not a self-perfect unity, or a self-perfect hypostasis, yet not a unity, he would be arranged in another order, on account of the mutation of the peculiarity. Proposition 115. Every God is super-essential, super-vital, and super-intellectual. For if each is a self-perfect unity, but neither essence, life, or intellect is a unity, but that which is united, it is evident that every God is beyond each of these, v. essence, life, and intellect. For if these differ from each other, but all are in all, each of these being all will not be one only. Further, if the first God is super-essential, but every God is of the primary causal chain, so far as it is a God, each will be superessential. But that the first God is superessential is evident, for essence is not the same with unity, nor is to exist the same thing as to be united. If, however, these are not the same, either the first God is both of these, and in this case it will not be the only one, but something else besides the one, and will participate of unity, but will not be the one itself, or he is one of these. But if indeed he is essence, he will be indignant of the one. It is, however, impossible that the good and the first should be indignant. Hence he is one alone, and therefore superessential. But if each thing imparts the peculiarity of that which is primarily to the whole causal chain of which it is the leader, every divine number is superessential, since every archical cause produces similars prior to dissimilars. If therefore the first God is superessential, all the gods will be superessential, for they will be entirely similar to the first. Since, however, they are likewise essences, they will be produced from the first essence as the monads of essences. Every God subsists through its own superessential goodness, and is good neither through participation nor through essence, but superessentially, since habits and essences are allotted as secondary and remote order from the gods. For if the first God is the one and the good, so far as he is the one, he is likewise the good, and so far as he is the good, he is likewise the one. If this be the case, every causal chain of the gods is uniform and boniform according to one peculiarity, and each of the gods is not a unity in goodness according to any other thing, but each, so far as he is a unity, is a goodness, and so far as he is a goodness, is a unity. To the degree, likewise, that the gods posterior to the first God proceed from the first, they are boniform and uniform, since the first is the one and the good. But as gods they are all unities and goodnesses. As therefore the one of the gods is superessential, so likewise is their goodness, since it is no other than the one. For each of them is no other than the good, but is good alone, as neither is each any other than the one, but is one alone. Sorry, that was number 119. I think that was my favorite in this entire work. Proposition 125. Every God, from that order from which he began to unfold himself into light, proceeds through all secondary natures, always indeed multiplying and dividing the impartances of himself, but preserving the characteristic of his own hypostasis, for progressions becoming through diminution. First natures are everywhere in a certain manner multiplied into the decrements of secondary natures, but these proceeding according to a similitude to their producing causes, receive their orderly distribution, so that the whole of that which produces is in a manner the same with and different from that which abides, through its diminution soul. Every soul is divine through a divine intellect, and every intellect is divine through the participation of a divine unity. Unity indeed is of itself a God. Intellect is most divine, soul is divine, but body is deiform. For if every number of the gods is above intellect, but participants are affected through cognate and similar natures, the impartible essence will primarily participate of the superessential unities. Secondarily, the nature which comes into contact with generation will participate of them. And thirdly, generation. Each of these likewise participates of them through the proximally superior natures. The peculiarity of the gods indeed proceeding even to the last of things in its participants, but through media cognate to itself. For unity indeed imparts its transcendent power and divine concerns to the first intellect, and causes this intellect to be like itself according to unical multitude. But through intellect, it is likewise present to soul, conjoining soul with intellect, and co-inflaming it with divine fire. When this intellect is participate, and through soul it imparts even to body an echo or resonance of its own peculiarity. If it is a body which participates in any respect of soul, and thus body becomes not only animated and intellectual, but likewise divine, receiving life and motion from soul, indissoluble permanency from intellect, and divine union from the unity which is participated. For each of these imparts its own hyparxis to the subsequent nature. Proposition 206. Every partial soul is able to descend infinitely into generation, and to reascend from generation to real being. For if it at one time follows the gods, but at another follows from the striving upwards to the divine nature, and abiding with it, and participates alike of intellect and the privation of intellect, it is evident that it is alternatively conversant with generation and the gods. For since it is not for an infinite time with the gods, it will not for the whole of the succeeding time be conversant with the bodies. For that which has no temporal beginning will never have an end, and that which has no end is necessarily without a beginning. It follows, therefore, that every partial soul makes circuits of ascents from and of descents into generation, and that this must be unceasing through infinite time. Every partial soul, therefore, is able to descend and reascend infinitely, and this experience all souls must undergo